Hello students, I am Ruchi Sehgal, your facilitator for the next maybe 20 minutes. Today we are going to take up the poem Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. It is a part of your textbook Flamingo, written by Pablo Neruda, who is regarded as one of the finest poets of American literature. He won the Nobel Prize in 1971 and usually wrote his poems in Spanish. There is something very distinct about this poet, and that is he used to always use the green ink pen to write his poems. Green because he thought was a symbol of hope. So, Keeping Quiet is one of my favorite poems. And when I look at the things that are happening around us children, yes, I'm talking about the pandemic situation, the COVID times. This poem appears to be the most appropriate, even though Neruda wrote this poem somewhere in the middle of the 20th century. It seems that the poem fits in today's situation most aptly. Because Neruda talks about quiet introspection and retrospection. He talks about the fact that man has done so much against nature. And now we are actually seeing how nature has its own way to get back on mankind. If you open your textbook to page 95 and read about the poet, it says towards the end, in this poem, Neruda talks about the necessity of quiet introspection and creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. So basically, he's trying to emphasize upon meditation and introspection as a way to deal with all the problems. So, before we start reading, let us ponder about this thing. As structures around you are changing quite drastically, what openings of gratitude do you feel? What helps you move beyond fear and root in the warmth of your heart? Is there something that is helping you through these difficult times? Is there something that is making you feel grateful in the times of Corona? It's a call from within to sit back, listen to one's inner voice and reflect. And well, we are getting enough time for this these days. We feel thankful for soulful moments. Fear goes away when you touch inner immortality and you wake up as a better and stronger human being, ready to help out, full of courage and compassion. And let me tell you, if you try to look within, if you try to self-reflect, I am sure something very nice is going to come out of this introspection. And rightly, like the line says, you will wake up as a better and stronger human being. Now for the poem, Keeping Quiet. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment. Without rush, without engines, we would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single minded, about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence must interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. Okay, so what is the theme of the poem? Or as we say, the central idea of the poem? Yes, quiet introspection is necessary for human beings to understand each other and to prevent destruction, bloodshed all around us. Life today is all about wars and misunderstandings, and introspection can make us understand this. Now, theme of the poem is very important from the point of view of your board exams also, children. As a 2 marker, if you get this question as the theme, central idea, message of the poem, largely you are going to write these 2 points. And one more tip, children. For all 2 markers, remember, try and give 2 points. So, this is the theme of the poem. Now, for line by line inference, let's take up the first 2 lines. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. The question that is often asked in reference to context section, what is the significance of the number 12? Or why does Neruda ask us to count to 12? So here you have to understand life is measured in 12 months, 12 hours, and 12 here denotes time. Also, it might refer to the fact that he is asking us to count so that we can calm down our nerves and be ready to meditate. The next stanza. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. Now, language is a very important word over here. And language he has used. Why? Because language is the basis of many barriers. Language divides. Language is the reason for many wars. And that's why he says, for a moment, let's just keep quiet, not speak in any language, because language basically divides us. And let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. Not move our arms so much. The significance of this line is that he is making a reference to all the mindless destructive activity in which mankind is involved. Next stanza. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. The meaning of word exotic? Something that is rare, something that is unique, something that you have never experienced earlier. Why would it be an exotic moment? Because everything will come to a standstill. There would be no madness, no sound, no chaos, and we would all be together. In the sense, he says, there is this language of silence which is going to act as the binding factor. In a sudden strangeness, again the reference is to something that is strange, because something that has not been experienced. And here, if you see, strangeness also denotes that we will be united. Next stanza. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. These 2 examples are very good symbols. Symbols of what? Symbols of man's mindless, destructive activities, which is pushing him towards his own doom. So here he's given 2 examples. He's talking about the fishermen who go around catching fish. For them, it gives them momentary pleasure, but they do not realize that they have disturbed the ecological balance. The man gathering salt, is similar because again he gets a lot of satisfaction because he has achieved something. Again, the larger picture is that the same salt is going to hurt his hands. So, this is a reference to all those destructive activities in which we indulge without realizing that we are depleting the resources or we are destroying the environment. Now, for the next stanza, those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. So those here stands for the world leaders, the people who are responsible for all the bloodshed, those who have actually created these green wars, wars against environment, which has led to the destruction of environment. So basically it's talking about deforestation, depleting of resources, killing of indiscriminate killing of animals, all such things which have caused destruction of environment, or those who prepare wars with gas, that is chemical warfare or nuclear wars. They should understand that these wars lead to nothing, because he says that such a victory is just a hollow victory, and that's why victory with no survivors is only talking about that hollow victory where there are no winners. There is no one to enjoy that victory. So, what is the point of such a victory? Would put on clean clothes. So, now those people who are responsible for all these things should now do what? So, they are responsible for all the bloodshed. They are the creators of destruction. They should now just turn over a new leaf. Clean clothes is an example of alliteration. There's repetition of the sound clear, that's by alliteration, and it is also a metaphor because it is being used for those people whose hands are blood stained. Now they should turn over a new leaf and now they should follow the path of peace and harmony. That's why he talks about and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. Shade denotes peace. Have you seen doing nothing? So, probably the poet is trying to say so for all these years, when you have done a lot, it has resulted in wars and bloodshed. So, the time has come now, you just sit down, meditate, introspect what you have done, and do nothing for some time. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. Let's understand these lines first. So, for all this while, you must have seen that Neruda is only talking about stopping all activity, shunning all activity. So, very soon he realizes that this is going to send a wrong message, because being inactive is being it's as bad as being dead. So the proposal should not be confused with inactivity, and that's why he says life is what it is about. Life is about living and not about death. If you are born, you are sent on this planet Earth with a purpose. You have to fulfill that purpose. You have to live your life. You have to do what you are supposed to. And that's why he's very clear to make this, bring it about clearly that being inactive is being as good as dead. Poet is critical of running after progress without thinking of the consequences. And that's why here when he says, if we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, this is the success that he's talking about, after which we are running madly. And for once could do nothing means we should do nothing, we should just meditate and introspect. Perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness. The reference to sadness over here is that we never step aside to understand what is going to give us happiness. And that's why he says, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. So, in the present state, we are moving towards our own doom and we are a threat to ourselves. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. So here the last few lines are very important because in these lines he has given an example of the earth. Earth during winter months which hibernates for a while. So what happens is it appears to us that nothing is happening superficially, but actually within the bosom of earth, new life is waiting to spring up. So earth is actually nurturing new life. I'm sure you've heard the famous line by P.B. Shelley, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? Here, that is what Neruda is trying to say, that during winter months, it appears nothing is happening. But come spring, all that is there in the bosom of earth is going to come out. The new life that it has nurtured is going to come out. So this is also a metaphor because here earth during winter months is being compared to man when he is meditating. And as he is meditating, he is introspecting. So to another person, it might appear that he is not doing anything. But the fact is, he is actually looking within. And it is this stage which helps in coming up with creativity, with innovative ideas, and that is going to be of great help. The last two lines, now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. Is there any difference in the first two lines and the last two lines? Yes, if you see, the first two lines say, now we will count up to 12. So he is taking all of us together with him on this journey. But after giving his perspective, after giving the explanation, why he's asking you to keep quiet, why he's asking you to meditate and introspect, he says, now I am going to count up to 12. You have to keep quiet and I will go. Essentially, he has given you food for thought. And now human beings should use this opportunity to rejuvenate. Let us quickly look at the practice questions and see if we have understood everything. It's a good recap, children. What will counting up to 12 and keeping still help us to achieve? Well, counting up to 12 denotes time and it is going to help us to make our nerves calm. What is the exotic moment the poet is referring to? The exotic moment is the rare, unique moment when everything will come to a standstill, where there will be no rush and man will not be using his arms or man will not be involved in mindless destructive activities. What symbol of nature does the poet use to make us understand the lesson? Of course, you have thought it correctly. It's Mother Earth, and it is Earth during the winter months when it is hibernating. It appears that nothing is happening, but the fact is that life is just waiting to spring back. Why is Pablo Neruda against total inactivity? Because he thinks that total inactivity is as good as being dead and life is all about living. You can even quote the line, life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. I want no association with death. You can quote that line. Who do the fishermen and man gathering salt refer to? These two symbols have been used by Neruda to tell us about man's indiscriminate killing and destroying of environment, the way man is involved in all such destructive activities, it is pushing him towards his own doom. So basically, these two examples are very good symbols of man's mindless, destructive activities. I hope I have been able to make my points clear. Remember the poetic devices, metaphor that is used in the form of earth and also clean clothes. You have alliteration in the phrase clean clothes. So keep these things in mind. One tip again for your boards: for reference to context questions, do not beat around the bush. Give direct, simple answers. They are just one markers, but it is very easy to score one on one. And for your short answers, as I mentioned during the presentation, remember to write 2 points. Okay? Your short answers must have 2 points. Thank you, and I wish you good luck. I hope this video will prove to be helpful for you. Bye bye.